So this is my second video, and I like to comment over a game by José Capablanca versus A. Chase, played in 1922 in New York. It was a simo, so Capablanca was playing against more than one person. We don't know how many. Why do I want to comment on this game? Because I saw this nice video of Miss Sachdev. She is probably a grandmaster from India. And this video was in Chessbase. They were trying to advertise her new DVD on how to learn tactics. And I found that this game was really likable. Also, if watching it and then trying to comment it myself, I discovered some differences with Miss Sachdev. Let's start to see the game. Capablanca is white, he plays e4, e5, f4. This is the famous King's Gambit, but Fischer said he refuted it, but too late for Capablanca. E takes e4, queen f3, knight c6, c3, and knight f6. Here it's really interesting because Stockfish, after thinking for a while, obviously, says that for him the best move is queen h4, and this would give black the pawn advantage, and he continues with g3, h takes g3, h takes g3, queen e7 back again, and d4. I stop here. Obviously, Stockfish calculated up to the 22nd move. I don't really know, in my opinion, if this gives a big advantage to black, because the scope of this opening is to have open lines and to develop the pieces. And yes, black has one piece more developed, but frankly, it's still the beginning. Who knows how the game goes? Rightly, Miss Sachdev said she wouldn't comment the opening because she's more interested in to reach a certain position and show how Capablanca did, and that's in fact really interesting. So let's return back to the position. Capablanca plays 5d4, d5, e5. This is an interesting move because white starts to attack the enemy pieces, and he crossed the equatorial line for Bronstein. Knight e4, bishop takes f4, and g5. Now, here we have that in 1970, for example, grandmaster from Germany, Unzinke, played bishop e7, and he went on to win that game. This game is commented in one of the fourth number of the fourth issue of Informant, issue number 9 in 1970. So it's really interesting also to follow the development of the opening. But let's return to the game by Capablanca. So black just played g5, and we have here bishop e3 and h5 that Stockfish consider a mistake, but like Miss Sachdev said, in reality black wants to play bishop g4, so that's the reason of pawn h5. For Stockfish, the correct move would have been pawn g4, which have the benefit of making white move the queen in e2, and then black can continue to attack with queen h4, g3, knight takes g3, and then white obviously protect with bishop f2, but at this point obviously black can take in e2, bishop takes in h4, and knight f4. So I can stop here, but in reality Stockfish gives a small advantage to black, and is understandable because in fact once the queens are out of the game, black should be able to develop without problems and keep his advantage, that in this case is one pawn. Let's return to the game. So black played h5, and white continues with knight d2. And here there is another little mistake by black, because obviously black is not thinking correctly the situation, and it's interesting to see it. So he played bishop g4. Like I said, Miss Tania Sachdev made this DVD for Chessbase on improve someone's tactics. And the example here is obviously a very interesting one. Here she said precisely to pause the video and try to guess what white would play. And I think, in fact, that it's really an interesting move for Capablanca, because not many of us would play it. More than interesting, I think I should say amazing, because Capablanca played this in a simultaneous display, which means he maybe played against 20, 25 amateurs. And going from chessboard to chessboard, maybe he had just a few seconds to think for each move. So what he does in this case is amazing. So for those who want to think and try to find the Capablanca's move, it's better they stop the video now. And for those that want to be shocked, they can continue to watch the video, okay? Because Capablanca doesn't care about the queen in f3, and he plays knight takes e4. Notice that sometimes we think the engines are kind of conservative and they don't play this kind of moves, but I check, and also Stockfish would have played the same move. So it's interesting that an engine didn't care about the queen. Obviously black takes the queen. Who knows what this guy was thinking. And here there is another part that is really interesting. White plays knight f6, and Miss Sachdev says that black must go in e7. In reality, the first thing I saw and the thought when I was in this position, without even thinking, I thought now black should play queen takes f6, because it's logical. I mean, I'm playing against probably one of the best chess player in history. He is the world champion. He is a guy who has dedicated his life to chess. And obviously I will never reach that level. But he is not so stupid to lose a queen. Yeah, maybe if it was under drugs or some kind of thing, it could happen. Maybe he was sick. He could lose a queen, who knows? But I don't even believe it in that case. I think these guys, these kind of world champions like Capablanca, Alekhine, they were probably able to beat everyone also blind. So also if they were not even seeing the chessboard, they would still beat you down without problems. And so it's clear at this moment white outplayed you, but you must avoid it, and in order to avoid it you must give right away back the queen. This is what I would do against a stronger player. I would play queen takes f6, then obviously it would take an f6, then I would play bishop e4, because I want to keep the bishop in the center. And I don't care about the pawn in g5 that falls down, because I still try to develop my pieces at this point, no? With bishop h6. Then, of course, here I can start a kind of brawl, a tactical brawl, because I'm sure white would play a knight f3. I would continue with bishop takes f3 just to damage his pawn structure, but obviously it wouldn't fall for that. No, it would take bishop takes h6, because it doesn't care about my bishop in f3, and I would have to take back, and then only then it takes. So yes, this I believe would be the right way to deal with a super player like Capablanca, because I think in this position I have more chances than this amateur in the simultaneous display of so many years ago. Now let's return back to the game, and we see what this amateur did, but it's obviously a mistake, because after knight f6 check, he plays king e7. Now, why king e7 is a mistake? Because it blocks everything. It blocks all the pieces in the back rank, so they cannot coordinate the defense, and it exposes the king to other attacks, justifying Capablanca sacrifice. In fact, the game continues with knight takes f3. And the funny thing here is that Stockfish wanted to play another move that was bishop takes g5, but if you let it run for a few minutes, you will see that also knight takes f3 is a good move. So Capablanca already at this point, no matter what he played, also if he didn't play the best move, had a big advantage. And then I totally agree, obviously, with Miss Sachdev evaluation of the position, that she says that White has sacrificed the queen, and this is not big deal. But I think, yes, it's a big deal for amateurs like us, because we need to calculate all the lines, while Capablanca did it probably based on his intuition that was developed through years and years of practice. So, but the important part is that all black pieces are passive, and that's bad. Now, Miss Sacher here says that the pawn g5 is extremely weak. Well, I frankly don't care about that, because for me that pawn is dead. The first thing I thought of the pawn in g5 is dead no matter what. Now, our black player tries to save it with bishop h6, but it's totally silly, because you cannot even save that pawn. In fact, the next thing that Capablanca does is knight takes g5. But I think this point is still interesting, because Miss Sachdev said that black couldn't play bishop g7 right away, because then the bishop would take in g5, and Miss Sachdev says black would lose the queen. This is not entirely true. In fact, I didn't feel it was true. I thought that black had defensive resources, and I was confirmed by that better player that is the engine. In fact, after bishop takes g5, we have queen c8. So black takes away from the line of fire the queen and avoid the skewer. And then, of course, Capablanca or white would have continued to attack with knight takes d5, king f8. So here we see that black must play very, very precisely in order to survive. And then it's followed by bishop d3, queen d7, knight f4, rook e8, and the castle. And white still has a good advantage here, but as we can see, black is trying to organize his own forces to fight back. And let's remember, this is a simul, which means Capablanca had to play other 20, 25 players. So that's good, because more you're able to give him problems, and more you're able to survive. So I definitely think that black should have played bishop g7 instead of bishop h6, differently from Miss Sachdev. Then maybe he would have lost in any case, but I think bishop g7 was the move that would have given white more difficulties in the entire simul. That would mean he would have more difficulties, maybe because he had to play against other players, no? That would also give him problems. So the game from after bishop h6 continues with knight takes g5, and now black must return back because the bishop there doesn't mean anything. So he plays bishop g7, and white again plays a move that Stockfish wouldn't have played, because Stockfish would have played knight g in h7, while white plays bishop d3. But still, white is gonna win no matter what, so it doesn't really matter. Black takes in f6, and here there is another amazing move by Capablanca, which is castle. And why this move is really good? Because it lets white to bring all his army on the f-file. So this is the difference. White now has the possibility to develop and attack with the rooks on the f-file that is open, while black still, with the king in e7, is blocking the coordination of his own pieces. So also here we see the fact that a good player is able to place the pieces in the best squares, and this is what Capablanca is doing. Black continues with queen g8. Here Stockfish said that it was better to play bishop takes e5, and then there is a lengthy analysis, but in reality, however, white still has a good advantage. So after queen g8, maybe some people would ask themselves, what happens if black would take in g5? Well, that wouldn't be really good, because after bishop takes g5, king d7, bishop takes d8, knight takes d8, rook f6, white still has a huge advantage, and now has the more active pieces, which will give him even more material advantage. But still, you could ask yourself, what if instead of queen g8, black would play bishop g7? Also in this case, it's not good, the situation for black, because there is a rook takes f7, king e8, and rook takes g7. It's the best. In the video, Miss Sachdev proposes this move, bishop g6, which is not the strongest move for the engine, but I think for a human being would be really strong and give a lot of problems. Because after knight e7, obviously white has some kind of discovery checks, or white can go in e6 with a knight, and also after queen c8, white takes back the piece, and he still has this huge advantage. As we can see, black is all back in his original place. The pieces are not doing anything, because the rook h8 and the rook a8 are not working at all. So it is obvious that white is going to win. And notice also, if black plays king f7, white gives check, king e7, and then knight f4, so he's also able to take away his pieces from black threats and attack again. It's amazing, because black has this queen that is not doing anything, while white with two free pieces is making this incredible attack. But let's return to queen g8, played by black. It's followed by rook takes f6, and obviously rook f8, because at this point the game changed. Practically all becomes focus on f7. That was one of the favorite from Tal, because many of Tal's game were always attacking f7. And here we can see what happens. White continues to double the rook with rook f1, and attacks f7 even more. Black defend f7 with knight d8. And here there is another imprecision that Miss Sachdev noticed, thanks to the engine, because I also noticed it. Practically, it says that white should have played c4 because in this way is attacking f7. If black takes in c4, white will continue with bishop takes c4, and at a certain point black is going to fall down. At this point, however, Miss Sachdev stopped commenting, saying that it wasn't any more important to see the rest of the game, and she's totally right. I like to show it because I think Capablanca did really an amazing job. It was really elegant in the way he finished the job. So there is a queen g7, h4. Also this move, h4, misses the idea of continuing the attack on f7 with pawn c4, but it really doesn't matter. Now black continues with king e8. Stockfish says maybe it was better king d7, and is trying obviously to escape, but Stockfish also found the counter move that would be bishop f5, blocking the king from escaping, so the king must return back to e8, and then white continues to attack. Now, let's return to the game with king e8. Then we have b5, followed by b6 to stop the possibility that white has of attacking in that side of the board, but is not enough. Here white plays bishop e2. Stockfish says bishop c1 was the idea because obviously he wants to go in a3. And of course there is a very lengthy line because strangely Stockfish can see 20 moves ahead, and it's really crazy. Returning to the move bishop e2, however, is the idea of attacking on f7, because also in this case white can push finally the pawn, but black plays knight e6, and then white plays bishop f3. After knight takes g5, bishop takes g5, queen h7, and bishop takes d5. Finally, this f7 is again under attack. There is queen d3 and bishop c6, which finish the game. Now, this is really interesting. At this point, you can stop the video and see for yourself, because there is a checkmate in a couple of moves. And if you don't want to stop the video, I can show it to you, because it was really nice to think that after 25 moves, white would be able to give checkmate without even having the queen. So here is the game. Black plays king d8. White continues with rook takes f7, giving a discovery check from the bishop g5, king c8, and now it's simple. Rook takes f8, rook takes f8, and rook takes f8, checkmate. And this is the end of the game. It was really nice, and it was also nice obviously to see Miss Sachdev to comment on it and to give me the idea for making this video.